You probably already know that wealth generally refers to the value of everything a person owns, less any debt they owe. But did you know that the 100 richest people in India have more wealth than 2/3 of the population? Of those, the richest 15 have more wealth than half the population of the country. Let's represent the population of India as 100 people. The poorest 90 are represented in red and the richest 10 in green. Now, let's take a closer look at how India's total wealth, which is around 216 trillion rupees, is divided amongst its people. The top 10 have 3/4 of all the wealth. The bottom 90 are left with only a quarter. But even this doesn't tell the full story. The bulk of the wealth of the top 10 actually belongs to the top 1. How did our wealth distribution get so skewed? Out of the current wealth of 216 trillion rupees, about 144 trillion was created between 2000 and 2014 during India's economic boom. This new wealth has been distributed amongst our population in an extremely uneven fashion. The bottom 90% have only 1/5 of the new wealth created, while 4/5 of it has gone to the top 10%. What's more, the top 1% take away the lion's share, more than half of this increased wealth. It is this hijacking of India's growth story that has sharply increased inequality in our country. In the year 2000, the division of wealth across these groups was as you see here. They all had roughly 1/3 of the wealth. But by 2014, this had changed dramatically. The share of the top 1% has grown to 1/2, and the rest 2 sections have shrunk to just 1/4 each. Some people argue that more money in the hands of the rich will trickle down to those below, eventually benefiting them too. Clearly, this theory does not work in practice. In 1991, India had a large share of the world's hungry people. Despite our tremendous growth, things have only gone from bad to worse. In the last 25 years, India has lost its fight against hunger. Its share in global hunger has actually risen from 1/5 in 1991 to 1/4. As a result, despite being an emerging economy, India now has one of the highest percentages of underweight children in the world. Almost twice as many as the much poorer, low-income countries. Apart from being underweight, nearly half the children in this age group in India are also stunted, which health experts identify as the key indicator of malnutrition. Illiteracy follows a pattern similar to hunger. In 1991, India had 280 million people unlettered, almost 1/3 of the world's illiterate population. In the last quarter of a century, the numbers have hardly changed, which has led to India's share in global illiteracy to actually rise. This is hardly surprising when you consider how long an Indian child spends in school on average, as compared to even its neighboring countries. Despite India being economically significantly better off than Bangladesh, our numbers are worse. Incidentally, Bangladesh outperforms us on healthcare expenditures as well, spending a greater percentage of its yearly government budget on health. Around 3/4 of all money spent on healthcare in India is in the private sector. As a result, around 40 million people are forced into poverty every year, incurring debts to pay for treatment and care. What could we do differently? For example, we could tax the wealthy more and spend this on health, education, and food for the people. Providing universal healthcare throughout India would cost around 320 billion rupees. That may sound like a lot of money, but it's a small fraction of the 39 trillion rupees given as tax foregone column in our budgets in the period of 2006 to 2013. As we have seen, the bulk of this measure has benefited the top sections of our society. If we break it up, 39 trillion rupees over 8 years averages to about 5 trillion rupees per year. Now, let's make some comparisons. According to the government's own estimates, universal healthcare would cost us around 0.32 trillion rupees per year. According to estimates, providing food for every Indian would cost about 0.85 trillion rupees every year. As per UNESCO and other experts, the annual cost of providing schooling up to class 8th would be around 0.22 trillion rupees. When we add all these numbers up, it comes to less than a third of the tax foregone to the rich and corporations every year. Is that really too high for having food, healthcare and education for our children throughout the country? Apart from these important investments, let's consider some long-term costs for welfare of the people. Calculations based on National Sample Survey data indicate that 1 trillion rupees would provide piped water to all Indians. A similar amount will pay for construction of toilets for 600 million Indians who don't have them today. This is less than the 3.4 trillion rupees lost due to reduction of customs duty on account of gold and jewelry alone. We need to decide what kind of India we want and how should we shape our policies. An India where the rich continue to get richer while significant sections of our people live in abject poverty. Or help all our people